What's happening, big dog?
Hey, no, man, what's going on? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can, man. You always are welcome here. I love what you got going on, man. I'm always tuned into the show. What's the word? What you think?
Hey, man, like I don't understand the argument people are having. Gay dudes, listen, like think about it from a mechanical point of view, just from physics.
Hmm.
Okay, a man and a woman having sex. A woman is not gonna always be able to have sex. Most
Correct.
women red lights. They're not running it. Some are, they don't really care. Get the black towel, throw it up under you, and they go ahead. But most women, that time of the month, get from around there. Don't be nowhere near her. Let her do her thing
Hmm.
for one other month. So automatically, she's not going to be able to have sex as much as two men because it ain't no time of the month for the man. It ain't no, oh, I'm tired. My hormones ain't right. I'm nauseous. I'm pregnant. I had a baby. I'm
Hmm.
not. I got it. That doesn't exist. So two men together, just from a logical point of view, a man wanting sex all the time anyway with a woman, if he's gay, he's still going to be a man at the end of the day. He's still going to want to have
Agree.
sex because it's all gas and no brakes.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. And I don't know, why these people think that. In my opinion, even when you think of like, let's take for example this whole agenda. It seemed like this happening with the alphabet community, right? It's almost like when you think of heterosexual people, it's not a big deal because it's not usually something that we see having to be promoted and thrown into your face in order to normalize it, right? So, you don't see people being overly extra with heterosexual, with their heterosexual ways. But what you do see is because I don't care what anybody does, right? One of the beauties of this country, in my opinion, is the freedom to do whatever it is that you want. But what I don't like is that you're pushing it as an agenda on somebody else. And so that's my big deal. I may not agree with you, but that's what makes the country beautiful is that we can have differences in perspectives, but you still have the freedom to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it without pushing it on somebody else. But when I see a heteros or a homosexual or alphabet community people, it's like it's over the top. The
Yeah.
affection is over the top. It's like, we got to, they don't just have their hands in each other's back pockets, they got to have their hands inside of each other's pants. And it's weird to me because it's like, why are you over sexualizing this? And I see it all the time everywhere.
But you know what that is though, because they can't have children, they can't reproduce, so they got to reproduce that way. They
Yeah.
recruit that way. They indoctrinate. They are all over the place with the advertisement. That's how they
Yeah.
get you in. They go to music. They go to television, movies, any kind of way like that. Even what you showed earlier, that was kind of part of it because obviously it was not typical of the U.S. population as far as a heterosexual versus
Hmm.
homosexual population. It's overrepresented in that video. But see, I wonder who runs that channel. Probably somebody LGBT. I'm gonna tell you something.
I've never seen that channel before. This is my first day ever seeing that channel. And when I seen that video, as I was going through it, I was like, man, maybe we need some additional context because it seemed like it's all slanted one way.
But a lot of those channels, like, have you ever seen Jubilee? That
Yeah.
channel?
Yep.
Okay, I was on Jubilee, and when I'm there, guess who was people behind him downstairs. That's going to be the guy.
Oh.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So right when I go there, I'm in LA. It's cold, and the people that's behind the scenes running the show, LGBT black dude, another LGBT white dude. That's who's behind a lot of these operations. So
Mm.
they're gonna have these kind of shows where they promote themselves because they can't have children, they can't reproduce that way. So they got to recruit. They got to be able to indoctrinate you through what they have as their own media outlets.
That makes sense. I mean, it makes 100% sense now because now that I think about it, because when you added that additional context, when I'm starting to think about all of the shows that pop up that I see from them, it's all slanted that way. But it can be deceiving, right? Because they don't necessarily always title it that way. So like the video that I just reviewed, it wasn't titled to where it would show you that it's slanted. It draws you in to make it seem like they're just talking about sex in general. When in reality, if you start to look at it and you're not really paying attention or you're not situationally aware, you don't realize that they're actually having a conversation and they're pushing this agenda in front of you that is slanted. And most of the people that appear on there is of that community.
Exactly. Like on my Jubilee episode, it was supposed to be black conservative versus black liberals, conservative and liberal. That was the whole thing about black folks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the conservative side, I think it was me and two other people. It was a woman, older woman, and a younger dude.
Mm-hmm.
Regular people, and nobody gay or whatever. But on the other side, as far as the liberals, they had a transgender female. Now, actually, hold on, I'm confused. So it was a biological female,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's crazy because when you see people in person, it's different than what you see them online. Like
Mm-hmm.
people online were saying, "Oh, I couldn't tell that was really a woman by birth. I thought it was really a man." But in person, like I'm 6'3", right? I'm seeing
Mm-hmm.
this fun size 5'1" woman with a beard. I'm like, I'm like, ma'am. I'm like, ma'am, really? I'm about to toss you up right now in this building. Like, I'm not convinced that dude ain't doing nothing for me. I see a whole woman right here in front of me. You know what I'm saying? But they try to put that on you to try and fool you. And then rather than it being about conservative and liberal, now it's about LGBT and everything else because you got that particular individual right there. You
Yep,
see?
and it changes the dynamics of the conversation completely
Exactly.
because you got to insert so many other factors versus just ideologies and the way in which you live your life or what you believe in as far as political preferences or conservative versus liberal or whatever. Now we got to take into consideration things that you wouldn't normally even discuss, which is sexuality. You know what I'm saying? That you probably didn't even think that you was coming into taking into consideration as far as the conversation that you was having.
Exactly. 100%. That's how they do it every single time.
That's crazy. That is absolutely insane. But you don't even realize because a lot of this is subjective, meaning that it subconsciously is programming you to think a certain way without you really understanding what you're viewing. It's almost like what you watch on TV. If you're not an informed person or you're not a person that's really trained to see certain things a certain way, you'll think that this is normal when in reality they're programming us to be, they're desensitizing us to it to make it seem like it's normal when it's really not.
Absolutely. And the same thing's happening right now in education, public K through 12, maybe even private K through 12. And you see it all over the place. TikTok, they're big on TikTok. That's
Mm-hmm.
their recruiting grounds. You'll see a teacher and it'll be the room. They got the LGBT flag, they got all kind of other stuff. They got the
Mm-hmm.
books in there. So you got these books that have pornographic images in it in the library for children to be able to access. And
Yep.
then they got like us talking about, oh, you guys are homophobic because you are burning books like the Nazis. It's like, well, maybe I don't think that a 8-year-old girl should have access to this book that lists literally pornography. I'm talking about hardcore sexual images in the book.
Mm-hmm.
That's right there in the library. But again, that's how they recruit. Okay, you got some curious kid who is in the library trying to read. Oh, here go a porno book.
Yep.
I should be reading this. Well, I can because it's in the library. Now they're reading it, and then before you know it, by the time they get to be high school, you got they, them, Zers, them, pronouns,
Yep.
everything
Yep.
else. Then they go to college and they get finished off with the LGBT teacher. It's all part of it's part of a grooming process. People talking about adult males grooming girls. That's a thing that does happen, and that shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
happening. What about the LGBT grooming children? Why is that not spoken about in the same way?
No, I agree, but I think that. Do you think that part of the desensitized way in which they're trying to program people is to normalize that by allowing for that to be a part of the narrative, and then at the same time, if you accept one, you kind of got to look at the other one, and you got to accept the other just as a part of it because you can't have one without the other, and then justify that this one is right without justifying that that one is also that it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Because even when I'm seeing, I was reading about Jordan Peterson and what was happening with him and how they're trying to make him take training or something like that all over again. And then I was also looking at the different laws that they're trying to introduce slowly but surely to where they're basically saying that you can't control who it is that you are, which then also justifies, and it goes down this slippery slope where it's almost like, well, if you can't control who you love, then can people that like kids actually control who it is that they love? Because that then becomes a part of the agenda. If you can justify it on one side, then you can also justify it over here.
That's the end goal ultimately. Like really, if you look at it, if you could just zoom out and look at the whole thing and look at where everything's going, all the steps that are being taken,
Hmm.
they're really focusing on the schools and children. Drag queen story time. It's like, all right,
Yeah,
I want somebody just to, like, I'm 5 years old. Break it down to me like I'm a little kid. Explain to me why a drag queen needs to perform in front of children. I don't understand that.
I
Now,
don't
if you got a
either.
exactly, if you want a drag queen that wants to perform in front of adults, hey, knock yourself out. I don't really care.
Hmm.
That's your business. I'm not here to be the D police on that type of situation when it comes to adults. But leave the kids out of it. But see, they go so hard on the kids because that's the next step ultimately to say, hey, well, the kids, he likes this 45-year-old man, although he's 10 years old. That's the last step that they want to take.
It
And
is.
they want to break it apart piece by piece to get you ready for it. That's all.
Yeah, and I see it. I mean, I've seen it a long time ago, and that's why I told people that y'all thinking, and when people say, well, it's, I shouldn't even care because, well, you're not gay or this is not what it is that you promote. But then at the same time, I see where it's affecting us in mass. I see how it gets inserted into other things as far as you may be thinking that you're voting for one thing, but in reality, you also signing up for this. I pay attention to, even, I was telling this story one time when I was in the airport and I had my daughter with me and my wife. And, I seen a grown man walk into the bathroom with my daughter. And it was,
Wow.
and I was just like, I went in and got my daughter. I called my daughter. I said, hey, come on out. We're going to go to another bathroom. But, it's just normalized now. And people are more scared to say something to the individual. And they
Yeah.
will leave the general public vulnerable, such as my daughter, in order to justify that this makes sense, right? Even when it comes to sports and the fact that these guys, biologically born males, are now competing with women and destroying records in sports. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
You got them competing in boxing, things of this nature, and it's crazy when you see it. It's like, how is this even right? I mean, think about boxing. You got weight classes. What's it like? 10 pounds, a different mix of weight class. So
Mhm.
for 140 to what 150, 160, that's different weight classes within men and then within women. But then you could be a whole male, skip past the gender part, and then compete. I think there's a bigger difference between male and female
Yeah,
than 140 and 150 within female.
it
But
is. It's a huge difference.
a huge difference. I mean, upper body strength, the muscle mass, the bone density, the everything is different. But
Mhm.
people, when they are afraid to say something because they don't want to be called a homophobe or whatever, it gets allowed to the point where really a lot of women are allowing it. I saw this picture
Yeah, you're right.
of a bicycle race, and at the end of it, you get this obvious 6'3" carrot top looking individual in the center. Raising the trophy up, right? He raising the trophy up, and then you got these regular fun size women on the flanking them, smiling. It's like y'all shouldn't even be smiling. Y'all shouldn't be right there with this big man in the center of y'all taking home the trophy. Because if that's allowed to go on,
Yeah.
no women would ever win anymore. You're gonna have the WNBA, it wouldn't be no WNBA. It'd be a
Yep.
bunch of guys that'd be at the very end of the bench in Europe somewhere
Yep.
or at a junior college somewhere. They're gonna go to the WNBA and destroy all the records. It'd be a mess.
I agree. I agree 100%. But I'm not even sure um, what can happen at this point because it's almost like the genie is outside of the bottle and you'll never be able to put
Yeah.
that back into the bottle. And it's like, I just don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I'm never going for and it's I guess my thing is I'm not against your humanity, right? I'm not even against your freedom to do whatever it is that you want in your own bedroom and in your own household. Because, I have people that I work with that are incredible at what they do, but the difference is that you would if you didn't ever meet with them personally outside of what it is that we've done professionally, you would never even know that this is what it is that they have because they don't lead with that in
Yeah.
order to justify the position that they hold within wherever it is that they hold in that position. They're just good at their job. And I'm cool with that. Like I don't believe in discrimination based off of, sexual preference or anything like that. But I don't understand why it then becomes so important. I look at a lot of the Turning Point USA videos where he's on campus, and I seen one recently where they snatched his hat off and all of this other type of stuff, and I'm like, why do you get to be extra aggressive You know, but if I was to do that to you, then it would literally almost be assault.
Right, but see, they've been trained to do that since, like I said, going back to when they little kids, kindergarten, K through 12, and then they
Yeah.
go to college, and then their teachers are telling them to do stuff like that. The teachers will alert them about turning point coming. They'll say, "Hey, this
Mm-hmm.
racist, misogynist Charlie Kirk is coming. Be ready for him, and I want you guys to get in his face. I want you guys to resist and protest." Then they
Mm-hmm.
want to change language, make it make sense for them. They want to use words in a certain kind of way. So they've been trained and brainwashed and indoctrinated into that. So of course, once he comes there, he represents all of what they've been taught over the past few years, really their whole life about what to hate. So they're gonna lash out just because it's like a dog. When you give a dog a command, he goes, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
little Johnny, one little trick word," and he bites your arm. That's what the kids do when they see Charlie Kirk come on campus.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And it's been happening for a long time. I'm not sure exactly what the solution is going to be, but you can't convince me that these people are not much, much, much more sexual, overtly sexual, promoting it
Oh
because
yeah.
the promotion comes from them promoting it and even embracing it to a level to where it obviously is just too big to ignore. It just doesn't make sense for me to even think that they're not way more sexual and promiscuous than people that seem to be, a little bit more heterosexual or people that just kind of walk around like normal people.
Yo, I'm gonna give you one piece of evidence here. Now, remember monkeypox? Remember that whole thing that was
Yeah.
going on?
Hmm.
Now, monkeypox, this was considered to be an STD. It was an article I read on NBC News where they classified it as an STD. Now, monkeypox, they said specifically that it was spread among gay males that were kind of
Hmm.
young, but not necessarily like 20s to 30s, maybe even early 40s. Now, in New York City, they were giving out vaccinations for monkeypox.
Okay.
And on the New York City's healthcare website, they had a list of who was eligible to come get the vaccine. They said gay males between 25 and 35 or something like that. And they said, hey, if you've had 10 partners in the past month, come on down to get the vaccine. And the line was down the block, around the block,
Really?
nothing but men down the block. Now, tell me how many regular heterosexual men are having that many sexual partners in
They
1 month.
don't.
They
Most
don't.
guys is not even having sex, let alone having that many sexual partners. It doesn't even make sense.
10 in a month down the block. I promise you. It was on the New York's healthcare website.
Hmm.
It was listed right there. And if you were not in that group, you were not eligible to even get
The
the actual
vaccine.
vaccine. You couldn't even get it. And then also one more piece. In California, after they said that it was a disease that affected gay males and it was an STD, all of a sudden kids and dogs started getting it, and then
Mm.
it vanished. Now I'm not saying how the kids and the dogs got it, but what I am saying is that the kids and the dogs happen to be in gay households. So I don't know how it went from point A to point B, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I think that that absolutely does make sense. But it's so much deeper of a conversation that I think that most people are unwilling to have, or they're unwilling to even explore, because people want to believe whatever it is that they want to believe until they don't, or until a circumstance happen, or it meets their front door. Then they want to start having a different conversation. It's almost like being a conservative, right? We tend to see a lot more people are liberal earlier in their life, and then once they start getting wiser, they start seeing how things work. They start getting a little bit older. They start seeing how they're under duress as a result of a lot of these liberal policies. They start getting taxed more because they make it more money. Then they start to turn over to being a lot more conservative in their ways and their thinking. Um, and by that time, it's kind of too late. So I don't
Absolutely.
know. I appreciate you, ABO man. You are always welcome. I love what you do. I love what it is that you got going on, and congratulations for crossing that threshold. Always in that million man club. You know what I'm saying? You've been working for a long time. You've been doing this for a long time. I don't think that people give you the flowers that you deserve as often as you deserve them. But I'm a fan. I love what you do, man. You are always welcome. And I'm always gonna celebrate you and salute you for the hard work that you put in as a content creator, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you always.
Thank you, my friend.